Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to XB-70 Valkyrie, America's Mach 3 super bomber ever built. Doesn't make sense, but yeah, that doesn't make sense. But yeah, I saw this title when I saw this video and I thought, yeah, let's react. This is the sort of content that I've been checking out recently, and yeah, I don't really know much about this bomber or this plane, and it looks massive. I mean, this doesn't look real. Yeah, based off the thumbnail, I didn't think it was if it was real or not. But so I don't know. I'm just coming into this with open eyes, I guess, and learning about what I'm assuming is a real bomber. I mean, based on the title, I assume it is. It's just titled very weird. But we're gonna check this out. Hopefully, you're going to enjoy. Links are in the description to my Patreon if you want to see some more of my reactions. Reacting to the Super Bowl halftime show finally, because I was ill over that period, so I haven't actually seen it. And there's also reactions to many other things, previous Super Bowl show reactions to like the most iconic ones from like, who was it, Prince, I think. I've reacted to that, a lot of older ones. And yeah, if you want to see just a lot of reactions that I can't post to YouTube, links are in the description for that. But let's check this out and see how super this bomber really was.
See this plane?
It looks so strange. It's so rectangular.
It's America's Mach 3 super bomber that you never heard about.
I don't know about this. I've never seen this in my life. What?
The North American XB-70 Valkyrie was the largest and fastest bomber ever built by the United States, but the massive 6-engine Mach 3 capable jet never entered production.
Well, I have seen this, I think. I don't know, I'm confused. It looks somewhat familiar, but maybe there's just a lot of planes that are similar to it.
Only one surviving prototype sits in a museum in Dayton, Ohio, even as the Boeing B-52 it was supposed to one day replace continues to soldier on. Named Valkyrie after the female battle spirits of Norse mythology, the bomber was built to penetrate Soviet air defenses in a nuclear war and deliver thermonuclear bombs on targets. The XB-70 was 196 feet long, 31 feet tall at the tail, and had a maximum gross weight of 521,000 pounds.
Oh my days.
The Valkyrie was fabricated using stainless steel honeycomb sandwich panels and titanium.
Strange, man. It's so weird. I could just imagine, I mean, obviously it wasn't ever like used like that, but I could just imagine this bit disconnecting from this bit. It just doesn't look like it's connected as much as it should be.
It was designed to make use of a phenomenon called compression lift, achieved when the shock wave generated by the airplane flying at supersonic speeds supports part of the airplane's weight. This unique characteristic reduced drag and was one of the secrets of the XB-70's performance. The idea behind the XB-70 originated in the 1950s, when it was assumed even greater speeds and altitudes would enable American bombers to survive against Soviet air defenses unmolested on their way to delivering their doomsday payloads. At the time, the only effective defense against bombers were fighters and anti-aircraft artillery. Even then, anti-aircraft guns were only marginally effective, and interceptors were increasingly challenged by ever-improving bomber performance. But the introduction of the first Soviet surface-to-air missiles in the late 1950s changed that picture dramatically. Suddenly, the XB-70 were much more vulnerable, and even its Mach 3 speeds could not guarantee its survival. To cope with the rising threat of Soviet missiles, the United States Air Force began to fly missions at a lower altitude where the enemy radar would have more trouble tracking its target.
It looks like a rocket ship. It's so weird. It doesn't look like the physics makes sense.
But at these lower altitudes, the XB-70 Valkyrie would be much less effective. So much, in fact, that it would not perform better than the B-52, the bomber it was meant to replace.
What the hell?
Mission range and fuel economy would also...
It's like a girl in a dress. It looks like a girl in a dress.
...suffer when flying lower.
Wow.
Another nail in the coffin for the XB-70 project was the development of ICBM missiles in the late 1950s. The Valkyrie was specifically designed to carry the heavy nuclear weapons, but now the ICBMs threatened the role of the aircraft. President Eisenhower was not a big believer in the Valkyrie project, as he saw no real need for the aircraft. His main points against it were the same as the above-mentioned ones. Rockets and missiles were a threat, and ICBMs were a cheaper, more effective way of doing the same thing, he said. He also pointed out that the aircraft, that was still in development, would be obsolete by the time it was ready for full-scale manufacturing.
Wow.
Technology would simply have caught up to the Valkyrie. The Eisenhower administration cut the project to a single prototype. Kennedy, however, endorsed the XB-70, and it actually became part of his election campaign to do so. But at the time he became president, the XB-70 Valkyrie project had already cost equal to almost $7 billion today.
Jeez.
A hefty sum for a bomber. So in 1961, he canceled the project. It had become too expensive and unnecessary. Instead, Kennedy changed the XB-70 program to a research project. The Valkyrie was perfect for exploring the effects of supersonic flight and propulsion. North American Aviation completed the first prototype, called AV-1, in May 1964 in Palmdale, California. A second prototype, the AV-2, quickly followed in October the same year. A third prototype was planned but got canceled. In September 1964, the first XB-70 embarked on its first flight. The Valkyrie first went supersonic when it reached Mach 1.1 on the third test flight on October 12, 1964. It first surpassed Mach 3 on October 14, 1965, where the AV-1 reached Mach 3.02 at 70,000 feet. The AV-2 followed its sister's footsteps and became the one to hold the record for the highest speed of the two prototype aircraft.
So weird. I can't get over how strange this looks. It doesn't look like
in April 1960,
any other one that I've ever seen. And it can go this quick for something this big. I'm so baffled.
the AV-2 reached and maintained a top speed of Mach 3.08 for 20 minutes.
What?
A month later, the AV-2 flew at Mach 3.06 for 32 minutes and covered a distance of 3,900 kilometers, or 2,400 miles, in the 91 minutes flight time. Tragedy struck on June 8, 1966, when the second XB-70 prototype was destroyed in a crash after a mid-air collision with its F-104N chase plane. 2 people were killed and 1 was severely injured during the accident. The loss of the second aircraft, which was much more capable than the first, was a huge setback. Testing, however, continued until February 4, 1969. Ultimately, the first XB-70 logged 83 flights, totaling 160 hours and 16 minutes, while the second XB-70 logged 46 flights, totaling 92 hours and 22 minutes, according to NASA. The XB-70 Valkyrie last went supersonic in December 1968.
What's going on here?
In February the following year, the Valkyrie AV-1 took its final flight to the National Museum of the United States Air Force near Dayton, Ohio.
Oh, I thought it was underneath. I was so confused.
Still on display there. The XB-70 Valkyrie was indeed ahead of its time. Despite a turbulent life from development to retirement, the futuristic supersonic bomber amazes with its looks, performance, and history. It was a product of the Cold War, where experts thought that...
Bro, it looks like a dog. I know this is irrelevant. Not even a dog. It just looks like it's got its nose here. And it's got its 2 eyes. It's got its ears. I'm sorry. It's just the strangest looking aircraft I've ever seen. It's so interesting.
Mach 3 speeds and higher altitudes could protect a bomber carrying nuclear weapons. But development costs and advances in technology eventually made the XB-70 Valkyrie unnecessary. Instead, the bomber was used in a research project aimed to study supersonic flight. The Valkyrie generated valuable insights about supersonic flight, insights that were later used in other military aircraft. The crash in 1966 became a darker chapter in the history of the aircraft, but the remaining Valkyrie continued its work in research and eventually went on display in 1969 in a museum in Ohio. The XB-70, while a technological wonder at the time, was the wrong plane for the wrong time. It came at a time when ballistic missiles were thought to be supplanting manned bombers. Moreover, it was being developed at a time when it was increasingly apparent that high speed and high altitude were not sufficient protection against surface-to-air missiles or the next generation of Soviet fighters. Though its intended role as a strategic bomber was unsuccessful, the Valkyrie project contributed to later projects like the B-1B Lancer bomber, the SR-71 Blackbird spy plane, and other projects. More's the pity. It would likely have been the fastest bomber ever.
What? Wow, what the hell? I was not expecting that at the end. So if you really got to fly this, you were one of a very select few. This was not flown by many pilots at all. This is just showing it take a landing. Oh, sparks. God damn. It's so weird how it just rises. That is so strange. Well, damn. That was the Valkyrie super bomber that was built but never actually fully used. The more you know, right? Designed in the 50s simply looks incredible. That thing still looks like it was wheeled out of 100 years from now. Yeah. The aircraft always amazes me. Look at the high performance race car or a sports car from the late 60s. Yeah. The fact that this is from the 60s, you wouldn't really assume that. The XB-70 looks like it's from a completely different timeline. That's a good point. Like, you look at the F1 or just cars in general back then, so different to how they are now. But this doesn't really look like it's that out of current day. It looks strange, but it doesn't look like it would be out of place in the current day, if you know what I mean. But yeah, this is an interesting watch. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you want more reactions like this, let me know in the comments. And yeah, until next time, like, subscribe, and peace.